Hello, welcome viewers to Bushra's Kitchen. Today I'll be helping Bushra out with one of the cooking that I like to do for my kids, which is pasta with fish. The pasta that I'm going to be using today is the Linguine pasta. The reason I'm using Linguine because it's not very thin and there's less chance of the pastas getting stuck to each other. So you can use spaghetti as well. Just make sure that it's not the thin kind. Don't use angel pasta. And I also have fish that I'm going to be showing in a minute. But the goal over here is this is going to be a very easy cooking for the dads mostly. Nothing that I'm using today is raw, in the sense I'm not using onions or tomatoes. Whatever spices that I'll be using today are all powdered, so it's not like you have to go to the groceries and go grab something fresh to start cooking. Everything over here other than the fish is basically powdered. So I'm trying to keep it as easy as I can, so you don't have to start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to cook, where do I get this, where do I get that, or do we have this? So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, this is a very easy cooking. I have done this for a while for my kids, and once it's done, my kids absolutely love it. I'm gonna go through the spices really quick and the utensils that the dads are gonna need. Obviously, moms can cook too, but I think moms are mostly experts. Dads are kind of behind in this area. So let's go ahead and show you the ingredients first. So like I said, I have 2 bags of linguine pasta. You can use regular pasta. Just stay away from the thin ones because they melt easily and they stick to each other. I have a little bit of butter. We'll be using about 1 stick. This is the salted butter, sweet creamy salted butter. Doesn't matter which brand. I also have some virgin olive oil. I have the Felipe Barrio brand, but you can get any other brand that you like. You're going to be needing salt, garlic powder, parsley flakes, onion powder, and if you have chicken bouillon, that's fine. The one that I'm using is the powdered version. Again, it's easy for me. I don't have to put the cube in and wait for it to melt. This is as simple as it gets. And black pepper. This is the crushed black pepper. And one last thing that you're gonna need is the soy sauce. Now, I like using this soy sauce because this is the seafood flavored soy sauce, and it does give a much better taste to the pasta that I'm gonna be cooking. You can use a regular one without any flavor, but for whatever reason, I use this one. And after I use this one, I can't cook this pasta without this seafood flavored soy sauce. You can get this in any Chinese or Vietnamese store. So I'll show you a little bit of the video of the aisle for this one. And they have so many choices. It's almost getting lost in there. All right, so that's all the ingredients that I'm gonna be needing for my pasta. Now, for the fish, I only need a few ingredients. I have the Italian seasoning, right? You can get this from Kroger, Walmart. These are very cheap. It's like sometimes 50 cents, 99 cents. Turmeric powder, paprika. And I'll also be bringing a little bit of salt and black pepper to my fish. And I'll add a little bit of lemon juice. All right. So these are all the ingredients. Now let's talk about the utensils that you're gonna need. You are gonna need a strainer for the pasta. The bigger the better, because I am cooking like 2 bags of them. So once they're done, I'm gonna be straining them in here. And if it's small, then it might fall out. So I got this also from, I think, the Chinese store. They have quite a bit of variety over there. All right, you're gonna need a cutting board. So make sure it's not too small so your fish can fit in. You're gonna need a spatula, a tongue, and rather large knife, not too small, because you are gonna need that to cut your fish over there. And one last thing is, I don't like touching fish and my making my hands smelly, so I do keep these gloves. I'll be wearing that when I marinate the fish. All right, one last thing that you're gonna need is something like this, because when I bought the fish, I have the scale on, so I have to take off the scale because I don't like it. I don't want it to get in my food, bits and pieces of scale. Although salmon fish does not have very large scales, but even the small ones do bother me, so I don't want it. This is the salmon that I got. This is the Atlantic salmon. They're about like $9 a pound or $8 a pound, but I got them on sale from Kroger, so this was like $6.99 per pound. So I got like a little over 2.5 pounds, which came out to be like $18. So that's the fish we're going to be using. I'll cut it, I'll clean it, I'll take the scales off with that tool that I just showed you. All right, while all this is happening, I have been boiling some water in a pot. Let me show you where it is. Okay, so this is the boiling pot that I have. It's a little bit on the large side because I have to put all that pasta in here. So this has been boiling for like 20 minutes. It's just water. I have not added anything yet. But before I put my pasta in there, I'm gonna add two things. Salt and some oil. The salt is to add a little bit flavor to the pasta, not too much, maybe a spoon. And then I'm gonna also add some oil. The reason I wanna put the oil in there, if you put the pasta just by itself, there's more chance that it'll stick to each other and become a lump, and it's very hard to separate them once it becomes lumpy. All right, okay, so let's go ahead and add the two ingredients that I just talked about. So the first thing I'm going to add is the salt, about a teaspoon. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add the pasta. So here's the linguine pasta right here. Let's go ahead and open it up. So I have a scissor over here. I'm just gonna cut the head off and take it and then just spread it around like this. Let it sink in. The heat will start softening up the pasta, and at the same time I will add the second one. Also spread it around, and now I'll go ahead and add the olive oil in there. Like I said, this is more so that the pastas don't stick to each other. I have the stove at maybe 6. I don't have medium, low or high. I have low, 2, 4, 6, 8 and high, so I guess 6 is about medium high. Once the pasta is in the pot, the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna move them around a little bit. Make sure all of them sinks. So if you gently move them around, it's gonna get wet, and the oil that I put in here, I'm trying to make sure that the oil touches all this pasta and they don't stick to each other. I have tried cooking the pasta without any oil. What I have found that sometimes it'll all stick together and this whole thing will become one big lump, and that's just not fun. All right, so let this cook a little bit. My pot and the amount of water that I put in, I think this should take no more than 20 to 25 minutes. I will keep the temperature as is. I just have to make sure that the water doesn't overflow. And if the water, for whatever reason, starts going down a bit and your pasta starts showing at the top, then I'm gonna add some extra warm water just to make sure that the pasta is submerged and not like sticking out like this, you know? You don't want that, all right? And the longer it cooks, the more soft it's gonna get. So the trick is you have to cook it enough where the pasta is soft, but you don't overcook it where the pasta becomes totally melted. So there's this right window of where you need to stop. Not too early and not too late, because either way, either it's gonna be chewy or so soft that it's gonna start becoming a mushy, gooey kind of pasta. Nobody likes that. All right, so that's all I'm gonna do over here. So I added oil, I added salt and my pasta. I'm gonna leave it like that, and let's go back to the fish. The only thing that you have to watch out for, that it does not overflow and ruin your stove, okay? I'm not gonna cover it, because if you cover it, then what's gonna happen, the bubble will start coming up very quickly, and then the whole thing will become a mess. So we'll just leave it like this, and we'll check back every 5 minutes or so, make sure everything is good. All right, let's go back to the fish. All right, so we're here back at the table. I'm gonna put my gloves on. Because I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna clean the fish, I'm gonna cut the fish in the right portion, add all the ingredients, and then start frying them. To fry them, I'm gonna need a skillet. So I have that ready, I haven't shown that to you before. The thicker the skillet, the better it is, because it absorbs heat evenly. So that's kind of important. So if you have a skillet that is thick, that's the best way to go. All right, so let's go ahead and move some of these things out of the way. Let's show you guys the fish really quick before I start cleaning it. All right, so like I said, I have salmon, 2.5 pounds. Let's go ahead and open it up. Salmon is such a beautiful fish. One of the reasons I like salmon, especially my son loves salmon. Why? Because there are no small bones. He hates small bones. Kids don't like him. I don't want them to, like, have a fish where there could be like small bones and then they get stuck in their throat. And so I'm scared myself to eat fish or something that has small bones in it. These don't have them. If you buy them like this, now if you go and buy the whole fish, then it's different. You have to clean it yourself. But when I went to the Kroger, these were like the fillet kind, and they already took the bones out. You may find 1 or 2 bones, so I always like run my hand over the fish, make sure there's nothing sticking out. Every now and then I would find one like tiny white bone, and I would just pluck it out. All right, and let's show you the other side. So this is what I was talking about. See, it's very smooth, right? However, if you run this thing, you will see that there are scales, right? And I don't like these scales. I do buy them with the skin on because the skin has a lot of flavor. I used to get the fish, and I would tell the butcher that please take the skin off, and they would do it for you, right? They would do it for you at Kroger. But what I found out, that when you take the skin out, the flavor of the fish goes down a lot. It's like something is missing. So the guy told me, hey, keep the skin on. The fish is more tasty that way. So I said, well, I don't like the scales. So they would not descale it for you. You have to say this is something that you have to do it yourself. But it's not hard at all. If you have something like this, or even with a simple knife, you can just go against the scales, and they just fall off. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this to my sink, and I'll do it over there. I don't want to do it here because everything is all the scales are gonna start flying everywhere. I like to put it inside the sink, run a little bit of water, and then just slowly go over all the way from the bottom to the top, get all the scales out. So once I'm done, I'll come back, I'll show you how I do the cutting, and take it from there. All right, I have done descaling the fish. As you can see, all the scale is gone. And now it's just the skin, nice and smooth. And I did bring one big bowl because after I'm done cutting the fish, I'll put them in the bowl, add all my ingredients, mix it up, and then start frying it. So I'll try to get a big one. Don't get too small, because if your bowl is small and you put all the fish in, it's very hard to kind of mix it, right? So get a little bit larger on the size. That'll be easier to mix it. All right, let's go ahead and start cutting the fish. It's a beautiful fish. So, and it's not one of the smelly kind of fish. It's actually very nice. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the fish and take the thin part out. So as you can see, this part is really thin and this part is where the meat is. And this is the part that I'm gonna give to my kids. So I don't wanna have this part and this part all together, because once you fry it, more than likely this part will get burnt because it's just so thin, right? They will get cooked quickly, and after that it'll start burning while this portion is, you know, still being done. So let's go ahead and start cutting in a way where I'm gonna take this portion out. Okay, so this portion, I usually have it for myself, right? You want to give your kids the best portion. So this is, in a way, for me, I guess, leftover scraps. I don't have a cat at home. If I had, I would probably offer the cat the fish. If you have a cat, you can, I guess, do it. All right, so let's go ahead and start cutting the fish. I like to cut it from the skin side, because the skin is a little bit tough. If you start from the other way around, what'll happen is once you're done cutting, you don't know if you completely cut all the way, because you can't see the skin, right? So if you start cutting like this, and once you start putting them apart, you will say, oh, I have a little bit of skin stuck here, stuck there. So I found that it's easy to start cutting it from this side. That way you know for sure that it went through all the way. So it's gonna be about, let's just say, over an inch, less than 1.5, so something like this, right? You don't want to make it too thin, you don't want to make it too thick. What I'm thinking is, like, usually I would, with my pasta, I would just give them one of these slices. So think about your kid, how much they like to eat. If they're a big eater, then make it a little bit thicker, not too thick, but don't make it too thin, because it will fall apart. So I would say this is the minimum you need to have. You can make, some of them a little bit wider. But if you make them consistent in their width, what's going to happen when you fry them, they will all get done at the same time. Otherwise, one will be burnt, another one will be halfway cooked. So it's a good idea to keep the width of the fish the same. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Look at the color of the fish, so beautiful. This is one of the nicer fish, easy to cook, tastes great. And if you get the fillet kind, it doesn't have any bones. And the scales that I took off, it's easy to take off. You don't have to struggle with the scales. They come off so easily. Make sure your knife is sharp. Before I started doing the video, I sharpened my knife with my handheld sharpener. Otherwise, you have to struggle to cut this skin. All right, it is done. So I am going to throw these pieces in the bowl that I just showed you. There's nothing in there right now, but I will throw them in. I'm going to make this few pieces. This is for me. See, there's a little bit of bone right here. I can feel it with my finger. So you gotta be careful. So what I'm gonna do is, once I cut it, I'll take the bone portion out, because I don't want this in my mouth. All right, so I'm gonna take these pieces in because they're edible. I'll leave this one alone, All right, so let me go ahead and take a quick look at what's happening with the pasta. All right, let me take my gloves off and throw them away. All right, so the pasta is halfway there. So it's been about 12-15 minutes. So as you can see that it has not stuck to the bottom and they're loose. So maybe a few more minutes and we should be able to strain all the liquid out. Now, one thing I'm gonna show you a trick is while this is being cooked and before you drain it, go ahead and take a little bit of this good juice out. You're gonna need this later because once I start cooking the pasta, because right now it's just being boiled, but at some point I'm gonna start adding all my oil and butter and everything else, right? At that time, I'm going to add a little bit of water. But instead of using water, if I use this good juice, it's gonna retain all the flavor, all right? So I'm gonna take this and put this aside. I'm gonna need that soon. All right, so the pasta is almost done, maybe 3-4 minutes, and then we'll drain the pasta. All right, now that I have my fish ready and I have got all my ingredients ready as well. So let me just go through the ingredients one quick time before I start mixing them up. Like I said, I have onion powder, I have turmeric, I have Italian seasoning. If you don't like Italian seasoning, you can use something else. But this has quite a bit of good ingredients in it, like it's got oregano, thyme, rosemary, basil, sage. So all the good stuff that fish would taste good with. So this is like, you know, quick way of getting it done. Everything is quick, right? So I'm not chopping onions and cutting tomatoes and stuff. All the ingredients that I'm using is dry, so it's easy to use. All right. So again, onion powder, turmeric, Italian seasoning, black pepper, paprika, garlic powder, and one thing you could do is if you don't want to use fresh squeezed lemon. I told you I'm not going to use anything fresh, right? All powdered. The substitute for the lemon would be something like this. It's called lemon and pepper. So it's powdered. You can use this one as well. They stay in your cupboard for a very long time. Obviously, the onions don't stay good for more than a few weeks. So, but if you can use it, that's fine. If you cannot use it, that's also fine. You can use this as a substitute. So that'd be your easy way out. Okay, so let's go ahead and start mixing all the ingredients. All right, so let's start with the turmeric. For the amount of fish that I have, I'm gonna go ahead and use maybe half a teaspoon. Then let's do the paprika. Again, half teaspoon. Gives you nice color and flavor. Garlic powder. This would be, again, maybe a little over half a spoon. Okay. Onion powder. Again, a little over half a spoon maybe. This much. All right, black pepper. Half spoon is good, unless you want a little bit hotter. But for my kids, I don't want to make anything hot. As you can see, I don't have chili flakes, chili pepper, crushed pepper, nothing of that sort. My kids cannot handle if it's hot, so I keep it pretty light. All right, so this is the Italian seasoning. I'm just gonna put just a healthy amount so all the pieces of the fish is covered, right? So I'm just like going over it like this, but if I were to measure it, it would be still like maybe half a spoon. The last thing that I have is the lemon pepper. Since I have a fresh lemon, I will go with the fresh lemon this time. But like I said, you can put a half a spoon of lemon pepper as a substitute for fresh lemon. So since I have some fresh lemon, let's go ahead and go with the fresh lemon. I washed the lemon already, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and squeeze it in. All right, I put about half a lemon in there. I'm gonna save the other one for a little bit later. Don't throw the skin away. I have use for that skin. I do have a grater here, so at the very end, I'm gonna grate some of the skin on top of the pasta. But this is optional because I'm trying to keep it simple, but giving you maybe 1 or 2 extra steps as an optional step, but you don't have to do it. It'll still taste very good. All right, so let's go ahead and start mixing this up. I'm gonna move some of this out of the way, keep my working spot clean. And one other thing that I'm gonna add is a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. That's it. All right, I have all my ingredients in here except the most important part. Guess what that one is? Salt. All right, so let's get the salt. All right, you have to be generous with the salt. So for this amount of fish, I'm gonna use maybe 1 teaspoon. Just make sure the whole thing is covered. The problem with the salt when you're frying the fish is you can't taste it. Halfway done, it's not like you have a little bit of gravy where you can taste it with a spoon. You can't, right? So, and the salt is very important. If it's too much, that's a problem. If it's too little, then the fish never tastes good, right? Salt is really, really, really important. All right, so let's go ahead and give it a good stir. Usually I would just do something like this in the beginning because I don't want to handle the fish too much because it is a very soft fish, and if I start putting my finger in there and start mushing it, I might break it, right? So I'll just move this a little bit, see how much it takes. If I need to, I'll add my hand and then start moving things around. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and add my hand in there. Just make sure everything is covered. Oh, I can already smell it. It's so good. I've got the lemon, onion, garlic, paprika, the Italian seasoning, turmeric. All right. So we're gonna leave this like that for at least 5 to 10 minutes, not more than that, right? You don't have to do marinate overnight and anything like that. 5-6 minutes, good enough. All right, remember, because we're trying to keep everything simple, easy, and the whole cooking shouldn't take more than an hour. It's gotta be less than an hour. All right, let this rest over here and let's go over to my pasta. I turned down it too low. I'm gonna turn it off right now. Let's give it a little. All right, nothing is sticking. Looks like they're soft. Good to go. So I'm ready to drain the water out, and then on the same pot, I'll start cooking it. All right, so let's go ahead and strain this thing. All right, the first thing I'm gonna do is, this is my strainer that I showed you guys earlier, the big one. So I'm gonna place it over here, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour in all the pasta. Okay, here's the pasta right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour it in. See, nothing is sticking at the bottom of the pan because of the oil, and I was moving it around every 3 to 4 minutes, making sure nothing sticks to the bottom. All right, I'm gonna use this to cook the rest of the pasta. So I'll put this away. Now here's something interesting. I know the water is getting drained, but what you want to do is with cold water, you want to wash the pasta. Okay, this washing the pasta does not look very intuitive. It's like, wait a second, you just put oil and salt and all that good tasty stuff, and now you're draining it out. The reason you do this is because if I just drained the water and put back everything in the pot, then there's more chance that the starch or whatever it came out from the pasta will start sticking and lumping together. If I wash this out, all the pasta or the spaghetti in this case will be loose and they won't be sticky. So I usually do this, and I have seen in the past that this practice is a good practice. All right, so that should do the job. So I'll let this strain a little bit, but don't leave this for too long, because if you leave this for more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then the whole thing will start becoming like lumped up together, right? Because it's still got some heat in it, and which will help to kind of become a lump again. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the pot that I'm gonna cook this in and see how I'm gonna prepare that. All right, let's go over there. Okay, now we are ready to cook the linguine. So I have my pot ready, and let's go ahead and turn on the heat. We'll keep it on low heat because I am using most of the spices as powder, and the powder burns very easily. So this is not like onion paste or garlic paste where it's moist and when you put it in it doesn't burn very easily, but these would burn very easily, right? So word of caution is turn the stove on, leave it on low, and we'll go ahead and start adding all the ingredients. And we can always increase the temperature later, but if you burn the powder, then the taste would be horrible and you may have to throw the whole thing away. So let's start slow with low temperature. First thing I'm going to add is the olive oil. This is the extra virgin olive oil that I showed you before, and I want to give a healthy amount of olive oil in here. And olive oil is good for you anyway. If you ever go to an Italian restaurant, you will see that they give you good great olive oil and bread. So go figure. All right, that's the olive oil that I'm going to put in here. I'll let it warm up just a little bit, not too hot, because the next thing I'm going to be adding is the butter. I have a whole stick of butter here, and I'm going to be using 3/4 of it. You can see it's got like labels like 1 tablespoon, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the whole thing is 8 tablespoons. I'll be using 6, so 3/4. So let's go ahead and cut it and have it ready. I'll use my board to move 1/4 out. If you love butter, you can leave it in. A little bit of this is not going to make a huge difference, but what I've seen that this amount works very fine with 2 bags of linguine that I have. All right, I think it's warm enough, so I'll go ahead and start adding the butter. Make sure the butter does not get burnt. It's easy to burn the butter. And the reason I have the olive oil in here is because if I just cook the linguine with only butter, then the butter might get burned. The olive oil helps in two ways. It helps for the butter not to get burned, and it also has a nice balance. So it's not like too buttery. You have a little bit of nice flavor of the extra virgin olive oil. So you can see the butter started melting. So that's a good sign. That means my temperature is good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and start adding the rest of the ingredients. So let's start with the first thing, which is the garlic powder. We'll go ahead and add about a teaspoon, because I have a good amount of pasta with me. So let's go ahead and add that in. Next thing is your onion powder. Again, a little less than a teaspoon right here. Go ahead and add that in. Now you can see that as soon as I put the powder in, it's not burning. So which is a good sign. That means my temperature is not too high, right? So that's good, because if you see those powder starts burning, that means, uh-oh, we're in trouble. All right, let's go ahead and start the parsley flakes. I like to give at least 2 spoons of parsley flakes. It comes out really nice at the end, you know. It doesn't look too bland. You have these nice parsleys showing even when the cooking is done. Plus the flavor is really good from that. Black pepper, I can put maybe half a teaspoon, this much. Remember, I'm not putting anything that's hot like chili peppers or crushed pepper. I don't want to make it hot because my kids can't handle it at all. All right, so far I have put in the butter, the olive oil, garlic powder, onion powder, parsley flakes, and the black pepper. Now I'm gonna go ahead and stir this a little bit. That's a beautiful color. All right, the butter is almost melted. That's a really good smell. The butter and the parsley, onion, and the garlic. It's all coming nicely together. Make sure you stir it a little bit, because otherwise the powders, if they get lumped up in one corner, it's easy for them to get burnt. And if you see the color change too quickly, where you feel like it's burning, then you can always use that little bit of water that I kept aside. So you could just put a little bit of in there. It'll help you to control the temperature and not burn the powders. Let's bring this up to a simmer. Right there, it's smelling so good already. Okay, next thing to add would be the powdered chicken bouillon. If you have bouillon cubes, that's also fine. You can just throw in 2 pieces of bouillon cubes. I like to give at least maybe 2 spoons of this one, because it smells so good once you add this bouillon in there. This is one of the ingredients that you have to put in to keep the taste where I want it to be. All right, let's start stirring it. Mix it up. So basically I'm preparing a sauce for me to put the pasta of the linguine in here. All right, I've got 2 ingredients left. This one is the soy sauce that I talked about, the seafood flavored. Oh, it smells so good. I'll put maybe 3 to 4 teaspoons. Look at that beautiful color. My temperature is still at 2, so that would be like not low, but medium low. All right. I think it's heating up pretty well. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of water. Make sure my all the spices that I put in here does not get burned. I definitely don't want to burn any of the spices. The only way to control this either with the heat, right? And then also put a little bit of water. All right, very good. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and taste it a little bit before I add the salt in there. Oh, it's really good. I'm gonna go ahead and add salt. Now, since I'm using 2 bags, these pasta, they soak up salt very easily. So you wanna be a little generous with your salt. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a whole teaspoon and maybe another half. So 1.5 teaspoon of salt. And let's go ahead and stir that. All right, I am ready to add the pasta in here. I'll keep the temperature still at 2 while I add the pasta in and stir it. I don't want to make the heat any higher than this because you don't want to burn anything, and the only way you can control is just keep it at this temperature so that you can mix the pasta with this sauce for at least a couple of minutes for all this sauce to get incorporated in your linguine. All right, we're good to go. Let's go ahead and add the pasta in. Smells really good. Smells really good. All right. I'm gonna keep the temperature at 2 for now while I'm doing all the mixing. Okay. Now, one easy way to do this is I do have my tongue, so I'll bring that in and use the tongue to mix everything up. It's an easy way to do it. Just grab everything from the bottom where all the juice is and bring it to the top. So that's a lot of pasta. If you just want to cook maybe 1 bag, that's also fine. Just reduce all of your ingredients by half. But I like to cook it maybe once a week and then separate them out in little containers. And I have like some little containers like this, and I would put a little bit of pasta and a fish in there and then cover it like this, put him in the fridge, and tell my son whenever he's hungry he can get one of these out. I'm gonna take this out and put him in the microwave, heat it up for a minute or so, and he has his favorite dish. All right, the whole thing is coming together very nicely. It's very juicy. It's got a lot of flavor in it. All right, I think I've mixed it well enough where the juice has spread all over. Let's do a quick taste. What I'm tasting for is the amount of salt. Do I need to add salt or not? That's the only thing I'm gonna check, because everything else is cooked except the salt portion. All right, so it looks like it needs a little bit more salt. So I'll put it in. Okay. All right, that should do it. All right. This is done. Now, although this is done, there's one extra step you can add as an option. Remember I saved the lemon? So I can use this lemon, and I do have this grater, right? So the skin has a lot of flavor in it, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this to grate the skin. But this is completely optional, right? You don't have to do it. Since I use the lemon and I have the skin before I throw it away in the trash on it to kind of get some flavor out of it. All right, that should do it. All right, I'm gonna give one last stir. Oh, it smells so good. It's creamy, it's soft, it's got a nice aroma. All right, this is 100% done. I'm gonna shut this off, let it rest a little bit, and then we'll transfer this over to my containers, make a few boxes for my son. All right, so now that the pasta is completely done, let's concentrate on the fish because it has been marinating for at least 10 minutes. So let's go fry the fish. All right, time to fry the fish. So to do that, I have this skillet. It's a little bit on the thick side. I've been using this for a while and does a good job, but the only thing that I like about this one is it's really thick. So whenever it's hot, it distributes the heat evenly. All right, so let's go ahead and add some oil. And I want to put enough where it covers the bottom of the pan entirely. And whenever I put the fish, I want to make sure it has, you don't have to submerge the fish, but maybe I have enough where it's gonna cover the bottom of the fish and provide enough heat. So just make sure that you have enough oil in there to do that. Because if you put too less, that's gonna be a problem. If you put too much, then that would be a waste. So I put maybe about like maybe this much. So all right, so don't put the fish in yet. Let it warm up where you can see, put your hand like right over here and you will see that, okay, I have enough heat right here. So you can start frying the fish. There's a couple of ways to fry the fish. Some people like to put the skin side down. The problem with that is this is an old frying pan. The skin is gonna stick to the bottom and it's gonna get peeled off. So I put them on the side for like a couple of minutes and then put them on the other side, and at the very end I put them on the skin so the skin does not stick to the pan, and then now you have to scrape off the skin. All right, so I think it's hot enough where we can start adding the fish to the pan. Let me go get my tongue. Very helpful utensil. All right, so I'm gonna pick one of these up, put him on the side. salmon doesn't take too long to cook. Altogether, not more than 10-12 minutes, 3 minutes on each side, so that should do it. Just make sure that you move it a little bit so it does not get stuck at the bottom, you know. Now my son likes them really crispy, so I usually, when I do it for him, I make sure that they're like really crispy. And but if I was doing it for myself, I would not go that much, you know. But he wants to see both sides nice and brown. So I'm gonna keep it for like a couple of minutes, and then I'm gonna turn it over, do 3-4 minutes on the other side, and finish up the rest of the sides, not more than 2 minutes each, because we don't want to burn it and make it all the way dry, but we want to make sure it's cooked all the way through as well. Alright, so it's been 3 minutes. I'm gonna start flipping them over on the other side. Look at that color, that's really nice. That's what I'm going for. You just have to make sure that they don't stick at the bottom. Now it's possible because my frying pan is a little bit old, so it's not a non-stick, but if you do have a non-stick, this job will become even more easier. Okay, it's been 3 minutes, so let's go ahead and check the other side. Yep, that side is nice and brown as well. I'm gonna flip them over. Alright, I'm almost there. I'm like maybe 70% done. I'll fry a little bit more till it looks a little bit more brown, just like these guys. And it'll take a few more minutes, so we'll come back. Okay, I think I'm done with my fish, so I'll start removing them from the pan and to my container. As you can see, like, both sides are nice and brown. Right? So let's go ahead and start picking them up. If some of them are more done than the other, that's okay, because some people like to, you know, pick up the crispy ones, and some people avoid the crispy ones, so there's a little bit of personal choice there. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the rest of the fish, but my son has come from school and he's very hungry. So let's go ahead and fix him a plate while we fry the rest of the fish. Okay, let's get a plate. All right, here is the plate. So let's go ahead and take some pasta from the dish. He is really hungry when he comes from school, so we don't tell him to kind of eat a little bit and then have a big dinner. I've seen him that if I do that, he neither eats now nor later, so I just let him eat as much as he wants to when he comes back from school. All right, so let's take a piece of fish. Let's give him a little one that is more burnt because he loves that. Let's give him this one. Red this one. And maybe I'll give him another small piece. Maybe this one. All right, so that's his dinner. I know he's gonna love it. He always tells me, thanks for cooking, Dad. So, hope you enjoyed the cooking. So this was a simple dinner dish you can make easily. So we have the pasta and the fried salmon fish. It took me about close to an hour. But I have enough to last me for at least 3 to 4 days. I will be putting some of these in a container. So I would just take a container like this and then give him a little bit of pasta. And I'll let it cool down and then I'll put it in the fridge for him to take out whenever he's hungry from school. So when he comes from school tomorrow, he has his lunch ready. So let's give him a fish, and there we go. All right, thank you very much for staying with us. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Here are the different kinds of pasta. You have fettuccine, linguine, angel hair pasta. This is kind of the thinner ones that gets melt easily. You can also use the rigatoni. Take a look at all the soy sauces that this Chinese store has. So many. You can get lost in here trying to look for what you need. And that's the tasty seafood flavored soy sauce that I used.